Okay, so we're going to take a little bit of notes on substitution. That's what we're starting on today, and I'm going to do some examples with you. So whatever I write down, you need to be writing down as well. We're going to start off by talking about what the method, the substitution method, is really about. You're going to take an equation and substitute in order to solve for a variable. Okay, and this substitution method helps with solving systems. Systems of linear equations. Okay, there's different methods to use for solving systems of linear equations. We're starting with substitution today. We'll talk about elimination tomorrow, and then I'll show you the easiest one on Wednesday. Okay, so let's fill in the blanks. So this is what you're actually going to do. Step number 1, you're going to solve one equation for x or y. They may already be solved for x or y, and then that makes it a little bit easier. Step number 2, substitute. We're going to substitute this expression into the other equation and solve for the variable, which is what we wrote up at the top. And then once you solve for that variable, you're going to substitute your answer into the revised equation from step 1 and solve for the other variable. So we're going to end up solving for both variables, the x and the y, and it doesn't matter which one we start with, you should end up with the same answer. Okay? So we have some examples here, and if you notice, problem number 1, both equations are already solved for y. Problem number 2, it's only solved for y. Problem number 3, you have one that's solved for y. And problem number 4, you have one that is solved for x. So as long as it's already solved, then you don't need to solve it to begin with. And that just makes it just a little bit easier and not so much, it doesn't give you so much trouble. So we're going to take problem number 1. You have two linear equations, and we're looking for the solution of it. And in order to find the solution of it, we're going to set them equal to each other. Because this one says that y equals 4x minus 1, and this one says y equals 2x minus 5. So both y's can equal to each other. So I'm going to plug in right here. I'm going to plug this part. So I'm substituting 4x minus 1 into that y because it tells me that that's what y equals. So I'm going to do 4x minus 1, that was my y, equals the other side, which is 2x minus 5. So I'm just setting them equal to each other, and you guys have seen this before. This is when we were solving equations. So I turned it from two equations into just one equation that only has x's. So what am I going to solve for? For the y, I don't have any y's anymore. For the x, okay, there's no more y's. I substituted this into that y, so there's no more y's. So now we're solving for x. And we're going to follow the same steps that we were using at the very beginning of the year. Step number 1, distribute. Is there anything for me to distribute? No, so I'm not going to distribute. Step number 2, combine like terms. Is there anything on the left side that I can combine? No. Anything on the right side I can combine? No. Step number 3, move smallest variable. So which one's my smallest variable? 2x. So I'm going to circle it and I'm going to move it to the other side. How can I move it? Subtracting. Okay, you have to do the opposite of whatever the sign of it is. This is a positive 2x, so that's why I subtract 2x from the 4x. Okay, subtract. So what do you have here? 4x minus 2x is 2x. Everything else just comes down. So now I have minus 1 equals, and bring down the minus 5. And the fourth step is what? What was the fourth step after we move the smallest variable? C-do. Okay, so what do you see happening with the x? It's multiplying by 2, right? And what else? They're subtracting 1. So what am I going to do first? You're going to add 1. Okay, you go from the bottom up and you do the opposite. So we're going to add 1 to both sides. What's negative 5 plus 1? Negative 4. Make sure you're using the calculator. And then the last step is to divide by 2. So divide this by 2, divide this by 2. The 2 cancels. What does that give you? X equals negative 2. Okay, so I found one variable. Now I need to find the other variable. So I need to know what y equals. So what are you going to do? I'm going to substitute the negative 2 for x in any one of these equations that you want. Okay? It doesn't matter which one. I'm just going to use the top one. So now I have y equals 4 times what? Negative 2, because that's my x. So 4 times negative 2, and then minus 1. All I did was I substitute the negative 2 for the x in the first equation. So what's 4 times negative 2 minus 1? You can put the whole thing in the calculator all together. 4 parentheses negative 2 close parentheses minus 2, and that'll give you the answer. So let me open up my calculator. So right here, I'm going to put 4 parentheses negative 2 close parentheses minus 1. Enter. Okay, it gives you a negative 9. So my y is negative 9. So right here it will be y equals negative 9. Y equals negative 9. Okay, so once you have the x and the y, you can write it like this, negative 2 comma negative 9, and that's your solution. Okay, the x comma the y. All right, I'm going to do one more with you. I'm going to do problem number 2. They gave you y equals negative 6, so I'm going to plug 6x in place of y right here. That's what I'm substituting. The 6x in place of that y. So I have 2x plus 3 parentheses. Inside I'm putting 6x equals negative 20. Again, I said y equals 6x, so my y is going to be 6x. You just plug it in. Step number 1, distribute, so I can multiply these two. What's 3 times 6x? 18x. So I have 2x plus 18x equals negative 20. Step number 2, combine like terms. Is there something for me to combine on the left side? Yes, they look alike. They both have x's. This is an x, this is an x. You add them. So what's 2x plus 18x? 20x equals negative 20. Okay? I don't have to move the smallest variable because there's only one variable, but I do have to do C do. What do you see happening with the x? Multiplying. So what am I going to do? Divide. So I'm going to divide both sides by 20, and that's going to give me my x. No, not x equals 1. What's negative 20 divided by 20? Negative 1. X equals negative 1. So what am I going to do with the x? Substitute, right? Substitute in place of this one. So now I have y equals 6 times x, which is negative 1. Right? My x is negative 1. So what's 6 times negative 1? Negative 6. Y equals negative 6. So now I have an x and a y. So now I can write down my solution. Right? It's an ordered pair. Negative 1 comma negative 6. My solution is negative 1, negative 6. That's where they would cross. Both of them would cross at negative 1, negative 6. That's the solution. So you're going to do the last two problems on the front page, and then you're going to do the back page the same way. So you're just going to need more paper. You're starting here. So let me highlight it. You're starting on this one. And your answer is either going to be negative 2, comma 1 or 1, comma negative 2. And that's how it takes you to the next problem. Okay? And then you'll end up over here. It's only 8 problems on the back, so I don't want you to look at it and think that it's a lot. It's only 8 problems. You'll only do 8 problems. Okay? Whatever you don't finish is homework, and tomorrow we're doing elimination. So it'll be a different method, and hopefully we'll see which one you like better.